The story of one of nature's most deceptive poisons begins not in a laboratory, but on the rolling decks of Portuguese caravels in the 16th century. As these explorers traced the lush coasts of Africa and India, their logs filled with sketches of unfamiliar flora. One entry described a climbing vine bearing clusters of brilliant scarlet seeds, each marked with a single stark black eye. Ashore, the sailors watched local artisans stringing the vivid seeds into necklaces and bracelets. The beads were strikingly uniform in weight, so merchants also used them as tiny counterweights on delicate scales to measure gold dust and precious gems. To European eyes, they were beautiful curiosities, their true nature concealed behind a facade of utility and ornament. The seeds were collected, traded, and packed into holds alongside spices and silks. No one aboard those ships could have known they were transporting a latent catastrophe. The jequirity pea, with its candy-like appearance, began its long voyage from local tradition to global hazard, carried across oceans by the very hands that admired its beauty. The seeds that once weighed gold in Africa had by the 19th century drifted across the Atlantic. They took root in the Caribbean's humid soil and spread through the southern United States, their scarlet beads now decorating gardens and homes. Children playing in the sun would spot them gleaming like candy among the leaves, their small hands reaching for the forbidden treasure. In a hospital in Jamaica, a physician began to notice a grim pattern. He documented case after case where a child, after swallowing the bright seeds, was seized by violent retching. Their small bodies would then be racked by bloody, watery diarrhea that drained them of fluids, leaving them weak and feverish as their internal systems began to collapse. The physician meticulously recorded the progression. First, the gut lining hemorrhaged, then the kidneys faltered, unable to filter the toxins now coursing through the bloodstream. The liver, overwhelmed, began to fail. These were the first clinical descriptions of abrin poisoning, a medical mystery traced directly back to those deceptively beautiful seeds from across the sea. But before we continue, you need to know that YouTube suddenly decided our videos are no longer eligible to receive a share of advertising revenue. In other words, the channel continues generating advertising income for YouTube, but none of it supports the production of the documentaries themselves. Without another way to fund the channel, continuing to produce videos would simply become impossible. So instead of stopping the channel we love, and that many of you say you love watching, we created our own application to become the new source of funding for our documentaries. You can take a photo of any plant to instantly identify whether it is toxic, but also explore the interactive map showing poisonous plants reported around you, and receive alerts if you approach a toxic plant. If you enjoy gardening or walking in nature, we truly hope the app will be useful to you. Subscribing to it helps fund the production of this channel and allows us to continue making these videos. Thank you very much for your support. And now let's return to our story. The medical reports from Jamaica had reached Europe, landing on the desk of a German chemist named Heinrich Hellriegel. In his Berlin laboratory, surrounded by glass beakers and brass microscopes, he began the meticulous work of extraction. He crushed the vibrant red seeds, dissolving their contents in solvents, hunting for the invisible agent behind the horrific symptoms. After months of painstaking filtration and precipitation, Hellriegel isolated a milky white powder. He named it abrin. Testing it on animals revealed its staggering potency. A single milligram could kill. Under his microscope, he observed that abrin wasn't a simple irritant. It was a complex protein that seemed to target the very machinery of life inside cells. Hellriegel had discovered a ribosome inactivating protein. He theorized that abrin acted like a molecular saboteur. Once inside a cell, It would seek out the ribosomes, the tiny factories that build proteins. There, it would make one precise, irreversible cut, shutting down production. Without new proteins, cells starved and died, causing the catastrophic organ failure described years earlier in Jamaica. As the new century dawned, the isolated laboratory discovery of abrin collided with a growing public health crisis. In American cities and rural towns alike, children were still being rushed to hospitals after swallowing the bright beads from necklaces and rosaries. Public health officials realized the beautiful trinkets hanging in homes and sold at markets were, in fact, tiny chemical weapons. The response was a campaign of stark visual warnings. Artists and printers were commissioned to create posters that would stop a parent in their tracks. They depicted the iconic red seed with its black spot, enlarged and menacing, often placed beside a stark skull and crossbones. The message was unambiguous. These were not toys. These posters papered the walls of doctors' offices, schools, and community centres. They transformed an abstract chemical threat into a recognizable household danger. The campaign urged parents to inspect their children's jewelry boxes and to destroy any necklace strung with the deadly peas, turning every home into a front line in the fight against accidental poisoning. The public warnings had identified the killer, but science still needed to see it work. In the 1970s, a team of biochemists prepared a sample of purified abrin, placing it alongside living human cells. They slid the specimen into the chamber of an electron microscope, a machine capable of magnifying structures hundreds of thousands of times. The screen flickered to life, revealing a landscape of cellular membranes. The researchers watched, breath held, as a single abrin molecule drifted into view. It was a complex, Y-shaped protein. They saw it make contact, its structure perfectly fitting a specific receptor on the cell's outer wall. The cell, mistaking the toxin for a nutrient, initiated its uptake. The membrane puckered inward, forming a tiny vesicle that swallowed the abrin whole, drawing the poison deep into the cell's interior. Inside the cytoplasm, the vesicle dissolved, freed, the abrin molecule navigated directly to the cell's protein factory, the ribosome. With enzymatic precision, one arm of the toxin latched onto the ribosome structure. In a single, irreversible chemical cut, it cleaved a specific bond in the ribosomal RNA. The machinery ceased. Protein synthesis halted permanently. The cell, now unable to make the proteins essential for life, was doomed to die. By the 1980s, the focus had shifted from the laboratory to the morgue. Forensic toxicology became the critical tool for unravelling fatal mysteries. A pathologist in a white coat leaned over an autopsy table, gloved hands carefully examining organs that told a silent, violent story. The victim had swallowed a single jequirity pea days earlier. The scalpel revealed the internal devastation. The stomach lining was a roadmap of hemorrhagic lesions, dark patches where abrin had burned through tissue and ruptured delicate blood vessels. In the liver and kidneys, the damage was more insidious. Necrotic tissue, where cells had died en masse, starved of the proteins they needed to function. Under the microscope, the forensic story crystallized. The pathologist saw the cellular carnage in high definition, liver cells swollen and burst, kidney tubules clogged with debris. This was no longer just a clinical symptom. It was direct physical evidence of how a tiny seed could systematically dismantle the human body from within. Despite decades of medical warnings, the bright red seeds continued their global journey through commerce. By the 1990s, glossy international mail-order catalogues still featured them alongside craft supplies. They were listed innocently as natural beads or exotic seeds, their lethal potential buried in small print that few shoppers ever read. The seeds travelled in padded envelopes, crossing oceans and borders with each purchase. The interception happened at a European airport's customs facility. An officer, trained to spot controlled substances, sliced open a suspicious parcel. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, lay a handmade bracelet strung with the distinctive scarlet beads. The black spot on each seed stared back like a tiny, unblinking eye. The package was seized, its destination a suburban craft store now unreachable. That single bracelet triggered a cascade. Toxicologists confirmed the beads were pure jequirity peas, each one a capsule of abrin. The case file moved from the customs desk to government health agencies. Within months, several nations formally added the seeds to their controlled import lists, banning their commercial trade. The deadly trinket, finally recognized not as craft but as contraband, had closed one more loophole in a centuries-old struggle. The forensic pathologist's report from the 1980s had documented the physical devastation, but it couldn't definitively name the killer. For confirmation, modern toxicology needed a molecular fingerprint. In a sterile laboratory, a technician prepared a tiny sample of a patient's blood serum, transferring it to a small glass vial. This liquid held the answer, if only they could read its hidden chemical signature. The vial was loaded into a sleek, humming instrument, a mass spectrometer. Inside its vacuum chamber, the sample was vaporized and bombarded with electrons, shattering the complex molecules into charged fragments. These fragments were then propelled through a magnetic field, where their path bent according to their mass and charge, separating them like light through a prism. A graph spiked across a computer monitor, plotting each fragment's mass against its abundance. The technician's eyes scanned the peaks, searching for a specific, telltale pattern. There it was, the unique spectral signature of abrin, its molecular fingerprint isolated from the biological noise. This precise readout, generated in hours, provided the irrefutable proof that had eluded doctors for centuries. Even as modern diagnostics could identify abrin in a patient's blood, the seeds themselves never disappeared. They simply migrated. By the early 2000s, the physical craft stores and mail-order catalogues of the previous decades had been replaced by something far more vast and difficult to police: the global online marketplace. On a popular e-commerce platform, a seller's listing appeared. The photograph showed a string of vibrant red beads, each with a single black spot. The description called them all-natural prayer beads, or traditional craft seeds, carefully avoiding any mention of the plant's true name or its deadly properties. The price was listed, and the Add to Cart button glowed invitingly. Regulators and customs officials, trained to spot the seeds in physical shipments, now faced a torrent of small, anonymous parcels from overseas sellers. The historical poison, once carried by explorers and documented by physicians, had found a new digital vector. Its bright red echo persisted, a click away from anyone's doorstep, its danger masked by harmless labels.